Right now on Andrea Mitchell Reports, the big story of the day, BP's CEO Tony Hayward on the Hill. Texas Republican Michael Burgess is the ranking member on the Oversight Subcommittee of Energy and Commerce and joins us now from the Hill. Thank you so much, Congressman, for joining us. You asked a lot of tough questions today, and I didn't hear that you got very many answers. You were trying to pin Tony Hayward down on what procedures they took, and at one point he said, you know, well, we drill hundreds of wells, and you said, that's what scares me. What's your overall reaction to all of this?
Well, I think Mr. Hayward would do better to be a little bit more forthcoming with us. I mean, that's the whole purpose of having these hearings and these investigations. You note that I was careful to ask him at the beginning because I've received a fair amount of criticism as a member of the committee that, hey, we're keeping people from doing the things that they should be doing to stop the leak. And he assured us that there was nothing he would be doing this morning to stop the leak, and he might as well be with us answering questions, but then he's really not answered any questions.
Well, the committee members sent him a very detailed list of questions. He knew exactly what they were going to go into. So is this just a defensive mechanism where he doesn't want to, you know, stand up there and take the Fifth Amendment, but his lawyers have told him don't say anything because there are criminal and civil investigations underway?
No, you said it, I didn't, but I think that may be a fairly accurate summation. No one wants to have the optic of coming in and taking the Fifth as a CEO of a big organization, but at the same time, you may not want to be responsive in your responses, and I think he's probably following that route.
You said today that BP appears to have taken their eye off the ball. What do you mean by that?
Well, look, you know, we've had several hearings with executives, and we just get this same sort of circular runaround. But when we had those two ladies who lost husbands on the rig, boy, I mean, they drilled down immediately and said we were getting emails from our husbands, we were getting phone calls up until the day and almost the time of the accident that they were worried because procedures weren't being followed, things were being done differently. I mean, these men were employed by Transocean, which is actually the owner of the rig, right, the boat that was, and they'd been extensively drilled on safety. Safety was drilled into their culture, and that's what one of the women said. You know, after all the safety drills, all the fire drills, all the hearings, all the meetings that we had, we just knew our husbands were safe, and in fact they weren't. And the communications that the husbands were having with their wives back on shore was, whoa, you wouldn't believe the stuff we're seeing up here. In fact, I think if I remember correctly, one of them said her husband took out additional insurance after seeing some of the way some of the things were handled. So we got from two family members than we have from any of the executives involved in BP, Transocean, Halliburton, and the company that made the blow-up protector.
I wanted to play a little bit of your questions and answers with Tony Hayward and get you to respond on the other side.
The picture developing from our investigation is one of questionable decision-making. Will you assert before this subcommittee that all decisions by BP employees related to the Deepwater Horizon reflected your priority of safety first?
Did you get an adequate answer to that?
No, I got no answer to that. I will get a second round of questions here in a little bit, and we'll push that point again.
I also wanted to play for you your colleague, Congressman Barton, who has really stirred up a firestorm today by demanding that there be an apology from the administration, or by rather apologizing for what he called an attempt to shake down BP with its victims' compensation escrow account, a fund that BP agreed to. Let's take a look at that.
I'm ashamed of what happened in the White House yesterday. I think it is a tragedy of the first proportion that a private corporation can be subjected to what I would characterize as a shakedown. In this case, a $20 billion shakedown, with the Attorney General of the United States, who is legitimately conducting a criminal investigation and has every right to do so to protect the interests of the American people, participating in what amounts to a $20 billion slush fund that's unprecedented in our nation's history.
Do you think it's a shakedown, and do you think it's a slush fund?
Well, look, this is a hearing about delving into the tragic accident in the Gulf. I don't want to get off into to that discussion. I told Mr. Hayward I did not apologize to him. I don't think one's in order. He was the one with his hand on the switch when the rig went down. He's the one that ultimately holds responsibility. And to tell you the truth, after his non-responsiveness responses, I'm ashamed of his behavior before our committee. The administration unquestionably has been heavy-handed with its dealings with businesses, and we've seen that from GM. They demand signed the firing of Rick Wagner and took the company over. The Attorney General standing there with criminal writs in his hand saying sign on the line. That's a terrible optic. If I were in the administration, I wouldn't want that optic. But nevertheless, that's not our discussion today. Our responsibility is for the 11 families who lost loved ones and all those people in the Gulf now who are suffering from this well exploding out of control.
I can understand you not want to criticize a colleague, a fellow Texan, Joe Barton,
well,
but
he made it quite clear he was speaking only for himself. So if you want a response, I recommend you contact Mr. Barton and he'll respond to you.
Understandable. But John Boehner and others, apparently, according to our own Luke Russert, are not happy as a Republican Party that politically this is not such a great thing to be apologizing to BP.
He made the point that he was not speaking for the committee, for the party, for the Congress. He was speaking for himself.
Okay, and we thank you very much. I know it's a busy day up there, and you've got to get back to your questioning, but it's very good to see you today. Thanks very much, Congressman. And up next, rebuilding the Gulf.